I'm gonna shut my photo off for every now and then because I'm eating dinner and you don't want to see that.
And I
So,
haven't had mine yet, Ed, so it might make me hungry.
okay. So I'm gonna shut this off, but I'll be back as soon as I don't have a mouthful.
John, I have a question. If there's 6 members, we have to have 4 for the quorum, don't we? Not 3? Yeah, 4. Yeah,
The people online don't count?
no, you can't count the people online for your quorum.
Oh,
I know Kate is coming. She offered to pick people up if they wanted to ride.
at least the rain stopped. It was not changed to sleet. Yeah, about 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon. I was out. And it was 21 degrees and it was sleeting,
I was on my driveway from about 3:30 to
but it
5:30.
didn't do it much, yeah.
It wasn't nothing
Yeah,
during that time.
It wasn't much, but it was, you could feel it. You could feel it. It wasn't snow.
Yeah, I know they said there was gonna,
It wasn't snow.
definitely temperature wise, you felt like it should all be snow. It was cold enough.
No, but it was pretty inversion, you know.
Right,
Everything
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
warmer above
Yeah,
the clouds down, yeah.
it was a heavier snow than some of the previous ones we've had, but still pretty light.
But at least we didn't get a lot of that, because I would have clung to the road and made it pretty bad.
Yeah, I know. Driveway's still kind of icy from the last one.
Text her.
She's here. Katie's here.
Yes, she is.
It took me a lot longer to come up with that.
You make the quorum, Kate.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, guys.
It's okay, no problem. You beat me by 3 minutes.
It's
We were all running.
weather delay.
Oh, well, I
beat
knew
you
better,
by 3
but
minutes, yeah.
I didn't get started as I thought I would, because my rescue cat.
7:04
Sorry,
for the meeting. Record attendance. We'll start with people online.
Who do you want to start with?
Jean Belgrowski Hinshaw.
We have to do a roll call when
Yeah,
Ed
everything
Rick-
we,
Ed Rippey here.
Kate Plumley Stewart, select board representative.
Jay Wellens here.
Shirley Green here.
Tom Claus here.
Under
Rob Shido.
public. Public, under our comments, I'd like to say that, regretfully, Carol Wyman got in touch with me and, I regretfully accept her resignation for personal reasons. I wanted to go on the records that we thank Carol for her many contributions to the town of Enfield's natural resource protection. We're gonna miss her.
So that has to go to the select board. So the select board can accept it. That's the,
Pardon me.
has to go to the select board so that the select board can accept it because it's an appointed board.
Oh.
Yep, so just send a copy over to
I
Elisa
will.
and Ed and they'll make sure it goes on the next agenda.
Okay.
Definitely a bummer.
Yes, and I also want to have it announced, have Lisa announce it. So that
Yeah.
everyone will have an opportunity to apply that would like to. So not to hurry that process so that people are aware of it and have the opportunity to apply. The next thing on the agenda is to approve the minutes of January 2nd.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as printed.
I'll second that. Are there any, corrections?
But I know, look good to me.
They look great.
They look great as always.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so, is everyone, approve minutes as amended? We'll
Yes.
start with Eugene. We have to do a roll call for any.
Jean Belgrasky Hinshaw, I.
Ed Rippey, I.
Kate Plumley Stewart, yes.
Jay Wellens, yes.
Shirley Green, yes.
Tom Claus, yes.
Thank you. Okay, then we'll have the select board report.
I'm gonna spare you a really long version because we had two really long select board meetings. One was 3 hours, both of them were about in the range of 3 hours. But the highlights are, we're getting ready for town meeting. So, what we think of as town meeting, but is actually part 2 of town meeting, is the in-person part. It is March 15th. It's gonna be held at the elementary school, after much deliberation, and a split vote. We're gonna keep it at the elementary school, see what the pleasure of the majority of voters are, and then go and possibly consider another location the following year. I think it's important to note, you can catch up on all of the budget hearings, all of the budget work, and obviously the select board meetings online on YouTube. So I'm gonna task everybody with doing that instead of me making my report a little bit longer, because I don't think we have anything else that was everything is important work, obviously, but I don't want to keep us from doing other work tonight.
Thank you. The next thing on the agenda is, trails, and, Craig Sanborn is here. We come up to the table, Craig. Did you-
Yeah.
This isn't on the class 6 trails. This is on Craig's, update on what he's doing as a trails master.
Okay, so we're on Trail Master's report for the previous year and what we're doing this year, right?
Mhm.
We'll get to other business when they get there. Right, so. You'll be aware of what we did in 23. I have to tell you that in 24, about all I did was patrol of the trails and added a few places to the loop that goes around the reservoir, where the route was confusing and the adjacent landowner was claiming people were wandering onto their land. So now the trail is more fully blazed and we shouldn't be having that issue unless people go there on purpose. For this year, it's time to play a bit of catch up. So aside from the spring patrols of the trails, and you clean any drains that are there and you clear the blow downs, so forth, we have carried over on the Bicknell Brook Loop. We've got 2 12-foot bridges that are to be built there. And we have these spruce trees that they're to be made of already down and ready to be limbed and peeled and then cut to length. We also have a bit of stone turnpike at a culvert that, well, what is it that got stuck there? A front end loader or backhoe? But anyway, that's been cleaned out and we are hardening the embankment there with a stone brought in from the highway department, and we expect to finish that this year, no problem. On the Suki Marsh Trail, the bridge near the trailhead is old, rotting, starting to fall apart, and it's time to replace it. There is another bridge uphill, which I reported on last year in the fall of 22. 2 of us spent 3 hours each there, and we turned a broken 12-foot bridge into a sound 10-foot bridge. And we also painted the raw ends that we had cut, so it is now probably got another 15 and 20 years of life before anything much happens to it, provided you don't have a moose deciding to walk on it, which we think is what happened last time. On the loop that goes around the reservoir, there is a bridge that goes over the outlet brook. It never did get put on proper abutments, and we plan to build those on each end, and then we'll have the bridge up above flood waters, or at the very least, it's not going to be so hippie. And that's the main jobs and improvements I know of on existing town trails. It's a matter of getting the volunteers who have signed up. We'll reactivate that list, invite people to schedule times and go out there and have more fun.
There are two people, have you added them to the list from the commission that would like to help too?
Didn't know that.
Rippy and Tom Claus.
Yeah, I've been trying to get on the list and
Yep, me
Well-
too. I filled out the paperwork and we'd love to work with you.
Okay, we
Did you fill out the online form?
can have a bit of
I
fun.
filled that, brought it to the town office and said, you don't need to do that. Contact Craig.
I let Craig know, and I don't think.
No, that's the correct procedure, so we better figure out what happens. Let me write. Because the way we're covering them is one, by having them listed and all their information, and then on the sign-in sheet to make sure we have everything we need for insurance.
So what I need at the moment would be name and contact information from the people who are interested.
Yep, Tom Claus. CLAUS, just like Santa Claus.
Yep,
Tom.claus2 @outlook.com.
it's two.
The number, yep.
Number two.
Need a phone number also, or
Wouldn't hurt.
207?
Wait, I,
Okay, yep, still writing, email.
right. 207
229
229
8063.
8063. There was one other person.
Yep, please send,
That's me, Ed Rippey, RIPPE.
Thank you. I'll get the name in a second. Thank you for your patience. Next.
Not a problem. And the email address is cruisered, KRUZERED
Cat.
at Comcast.net. And my cell phone is 603-219-5182.
All right, I'll put this under a more clear sheet of paper, but everyone is going to be contacted in due course, probably in April.
okay,
In April, actually, one thing I would like to do, maybe the first thing we could do together, if you don't mind,
Yeah,
is to meet up and walk the trails. I would like to see each one of the trails because I've probably only been on one or two of them.
we call
that-
that patrol, sir. The more the merrier.
Okay. Would love to do that. And I know Tom and I have spoken about this, and we got chainsaws and we got some tools and we got all sorts of stuff that we're willing to help you with.
Appreciate that. And then we have to go to a concern of the town, which is on the matter of qualifications and liability. Because even if you have your own saw and you are a competent sawyer, there's still the matter of the town's liability somewhat.
Okay,
That's a conversation to be had with the town first. Right?
that's,
Right.
that's fine. And
Which is
I'll be
going
I'll be
from there,
very,
you know,
I'll be very transparent. I'm 80 years old, so I'm an old fart. But I'm willing, I'm a
Just a
hard
minute.
worker.
Just a minute, there's an awful lot of people like that around. We do have a lot of fun too.
Absolutely.
Does anyone have any questions for Craig?
I'm just writing a quick note to the office to clarify, maybe it's because they're committee members. And to see if people follow the standard volunteer process and to get you a copy of the latest list, both of you.
Yeah, that's wise.
what we need to do as far as, proving we know how to operate a chainsaw.
One of the things I am doing I'm doing through, the town highway department is I am looking around for chainsaw safety certification classes.
Okay.
Again, we're just thinking about people's liability.
You had a question?
A comment, that safety class you're looking for is offered by Primex. You guys
By
kind
who?
of hand over, or comment to use Primex,
Yep, we do. Yep, that's a
In
very,
your name, please?
John Emerson.
Thanks.
that's a good piece of information because we do work with Primex. So we could ask the town office.
Well, it sounds like you got a busy schedule.
It's a matter of trying to get the crew up and running after a year of dormancy. And we're going to be more ambitious this year than we were in the initial year.
Mhm.
But we have a lot of fun too, remember that.
Good.
I'm all about fun.
I can vouch for that for Tom.
Thank you.
Hmm?
We have, one more thing on new business and then the class 6 roads are under old business. Tom is Tom Claus wants to give a report on a rat poison webinar.
Yeah, so I don't know if anybody else in the committee attended the rat control seminar.
I did.
You did, okay, so did you, Ed or Jean?
No, I did not.
Okay, so I thought it was very good, very informative. And kind of in a nutshell, basically what it said was you don't want to poison rats. Poisoning rats is detrimental to wildlife. It can kill cats, it can kill the raptors. It's just not a good practice. And it's often a rat control policy or procedure that's used by businesses in particular, but homes sometimes use it also. But the webinar was more focusing on businesses. So my thought was to present this to the commission and see if it's something we wanted to take on. And I'm thinking it would be like maybe a 3-step process. Step 1 would be to identify which businesses in Enfield are practicing rat poisoning, and you can basically go back to where the dumpsters are and visually see them. Step 2 would be and there are a lot of resources in this webinar that you can basically combined with efforts that they can provide information, et cetera, to you, but provide literature to be able to then approach these businesses. And you would go to the business and say, look, we've noticed that you're using poison as rat control. We think that we will just explain to them, this is why it's detrimental. And here's a packet of alternate methods that you can use that are better for wildlife. And so that would be probably the second thing we would need to do is basically put together this packet of information. And I think it is something that you were mentioning earlier, Shirley, that once we get this packet together, something we may want to even publish in a newsletter.
Oh, yeah.
And then third thing obviously would be to approach the businesses and just go up and talk to the appropriate manager of the business and just say, and introduce yourself, who you are, why you want to talk to them, and give them the literature. I don't see it as being something we want to necessarily get into about as enforcing. I think if we educate, I think most people will want to comply with it.
That's what's important, is educating.
Yeah,
We're advisory. We can't.
right.
Yeah.
Yep. So, that's what I guess, I don't know, I make a motion that we take this on as a commission. And I don't know if anybody wants to second that.
I do.
Discussion. So can you provide
Sure.
information for what you gained? Is there information available to us? Just on what products that we're talking about?
There was a whole, I just have a one
So I need to be
page.
educated.
Yeah, sure. I have a 1-page sheet that
Okay.
kind of summarizes.
Yeah.
And they all had all these links. Is it okay for me to send that to you to distribute to the?
Yeah, that would be
commission?
good. That'd be
Okay.
good.
And also, I believe they sent a recording of that
Yes,
webinar. We could share that too.
Yeah.
So the big thing to know about, because I don't, Tom, have you taken a right to know law, seminar yet? For the
No.
town? So the town doesn't have everybody do this, but it's something that's a good practice and we've talked a lot about here. and also about, the specific laws around conservation commissions. You really can't just go on someone's property to talk to them. So I think you need to, Shirley, you know probably more than I do, but, maybe have talked to the town about how you do this approach. Because conservation has very specific laws barring them from just walking onto properties. Most town boards do, right? Because the idea is that you are acting on behalf of the town. And so we just have to be careful about saying, hey, here's this packet, you really need to do this. We actually can't just kind of approach it that way, but you can act from an information point. I guess getting some clarification from the town on how you can do the approach, in a way that, you know, honors
Definitely.
people's property rights and right to,
So who,
Because we can even,
Shirley could probably work with Ed.
I can check on
With
that.
Ed?
Yeah, I don't know every single nuance. It basically generally is the easy line is don't walk on their property with the purpose of doing town business. John's shaking his head.
Yeah.
That's the easy line because the law favors the property owner to be fair to them.
We can distribute information by leaving it in, public places like the bank.
Yeah.
Too. But I'll check on clarifying.
I think the other thing is we're a conservation commission, so to me, I want to be really mindful of the conservation piece, which is like driving around. I worry about us driving versus using things like the mail in public places.
Yeah.
To distribute, but we could be offering a night where we have people come. We haven't done an information
Right.
session in a long time. So
We
that's another good
we have that recording and that's, I mean, we have that.
The other opportunity for some interaction where you're going to have a lot of people, they may come see you or may not, is to table outside of the meeting at town meeting.
Mm-hmm. That's a good place to have.
Just throwing some out, because I think it's important information, like,
Yeah.
I know not to poison things, but people think poison, dead, gone, poof, and that's really not how it works.
And when the market season gets here, we can have a tent and have that and other pieces of education we want to provide to. Is there any questions? For Tom, from anybody, public? Thank you very much, Tom. Did we vote on, no, there was a second.
No, you have
vote on it.
motion.
Hey, you need to take a roll call vote, or are you in favor of?
Jean
Righty.
Belgraski, yeah, sorry, ready? Yeah, Jean Belgraski Hinshaw, aye.
Ed Rippey, aye.
Kate Plumley Stewart, aye.
Jay well inside.
Shirley Green, aye.
Tom Claus, I,
So the next thing on our agenda is under old business. And we are going, the class 6 roads discussion. Okay. Here we have a couple letters. To I've received a letter from John. Would you like to read it, John, or would you like to talk to that?
I'd rather talk it.
Pardon me?
I'd rather talk about it.
Yeah, that's what I figured, so.
Yeah. Could I do that now?
You can,
Can you give me a copy so I can remind myself?
yes? There's it here.
I'm adamantly opposed to the whole idea of turning Class 6 roads into trails. I have a town-wide interest. I also have a personal interest.
did you state your full name? I'm sorry.
John Klug, Kluge. I'm a selectman.
My opening.
We look right here. This is the Dustin Road that has been under discussion. This is my boundary on the Dustin Road. This little triangle, who knows at this point? That will be perhaps under some further discussion. So I have about 92 acres here. When
Where you heading? Oh.
I split up the land, I of course came to the planning board. For a while, I thought you were on it then, but you couldn't have been. Neither you nor I, is that?
No, that predated me.
Yeah, but, the planning board was very amenable. But I made one point to them. I said, I have a fair amount of land bordering Lock Haven Road. I do not want to use that as my needed 100 feet that every house lot needs to have on a town-owned road. They said, no problem. The Duster Road counts as that because it is a town-owned road. If that is changed to a trail, I'm in trouble then. You might say, well, why not just use Lock Haven? There may come a time, I'm not getting any younger, guys, when I may need to sell that. And I don't want to encumber it with that 100 feet. Does that make sense?
Oh.
Now, also, I'm gonna have to bother you guys.
No, you're not bothered.
Guys.
One
No.
single.
Yeah, why don't I just move?
Oh, okay.
Good idea. Good idea.
So. This area from here to here, if you walk the road, you'll know it's very well maintained. My loggers dump a lot of rock in there. Every year I go through my tractor and a grader blade. I go a little bit further sometimes, but you get to the end of the Duster Road, what it is primarily is Japanese knotweed blocking the entrance. As far as footing goes, I think it's all quite good. So from here to, let's see, my house would be right about up here. There's a trail that goes this way. There's a trail that goes this way. You'll notice that weird little dangle there. This piece used to be part of my property. When I got divorced, I gave that piece to my ex-wife. I kept this because the trail goes through here. I didn't want to lose the trail. And then it goes down through here onto someone else's property who also maintains the trail very well. My partner and I, Dolores Struckoff, maintain these trails on my land pretty well. If there's damage done, I take my tractor out, and at least once a summer, I put the big brush hog on my tractor and brush it, cut it, because prickly bushes grow up pretty quickly. You can get from Mascoma Lake up, let's see, see that little jog right there? That's a 20-foot to 5-foot right of way, which presently belongs to Visions. Snowmobile trails go right up, and you can get to from Mascoma Lake to Crystal Lake. So I think that we are ourselves doing a lot to improve trails at Enfield. Doesn't cost the town anything. Nice thing about a Class 6 road, it doesn't cost the town anything. The town is not allowed to make monetary improvements on the road. You and I can, for free of charge, but the town can't. A trail, the town could be convinced to put money into a trail. I don't think we should be in that position. So I would strongly encourage the Conservation Commission not to make the move to turn Class 6 roads, or at least this Class 6 road, into a trail. If you're a snowmobiler, trails are no good. You can't use them. If you have a four-wheeler, trails are no good. You can't use them. And the more class 6 roads we cut out of the system, the more limited those things will be. Thank you very much. Are there questions for me?
No more comments, I guess. I don't know what the RSA,
Your name, Kurt.
oh, I'm sorry, Kirk Hudson. I don't know what the RSA's were at the time when you spoke to the planning boards.
The chairman of the planning board was Tim Taylor, who was extraordinarily experienced. You worked with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he said that very clearly. There's someone else who confirmed that, and if need be, I know when the plat was signed, so a little bit before that is probably where the minutes would be, so the minutes can be found.
That's what might have been said at that meeting is really irrelevant because it's the state law that controls. And RSA 674:41 and Supreme Court cases regarding this issue have clearly stated in black and white that any building and any new subdivision lot requires class 5 or better road access.
But not when I did my division.
Well,
So what's the date of that, Kurt? When was that law enacted?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, then again, I'd say
Yeah,
you're,
but you have, but you cannot use, currently you cannot use a class 6 road to subdivide. If that was your intent. And any new structures that would be going to be built require that whole waiver process.
well, I don't know. I'm gonna have to look up the minutes. I think when there are legal minutes that state something and state to a landowner something, you can't just go and change that. RSA or no RSA.
That's from a lawyer to,
Bingo.
Would that be grandfathered like
No.
all in?
I think,
I would say controls, that's any new going forward.
right, we gotta be really careful as the board, obviously, that we don't wander into legal practice of law, but I would say that if we needed an answer on that because it would change somebody's mind, then we could ask the town for resources. I would also say that we, on County Road, which is one of the roads in question, somebody does have their frontage, not for a division, but for their access to their lot on County.
I think,
And that's
crazy.
a recent,
Oh, we'll finish.
Oh, just in passing, the very beginning of Dustin Road is also part of the driveway to that property right there, which belongs to David and Sylvia Dow. And the town did give them permission to use the beginning of the Dustin Road as part of their driveway. Thank you.
And it's still, the underlying, it's still a class 6 road, they're just using the class 6 road for access.
it's totally fine.
Run.
Same as Mud Pond Road, the houses that are on that.
I have a photo, so I didn't realize when I sent the photos to you, I think the format didn't go through, so you probably couldn't see them.
I could.
Oh, you could see them. So for whatever reason on my laptop, they didn't come through, but I have them. I can cast them for the rest of the board. I think the file was too big to send forward. I noticed it didn't get distributed.
Oh,
So if it was okay with the board, David Plumley, who spoke last time, submitted some photos. I'd like to cast them.
Mhm.
David, is that okay if I cast your photos and you can tell people what they are?
Yeah.
Okay. Give me just a second. Incoming. So bear with me because they're very heavy and it lags, but you should.
Yeah, this is an old road, so there's a lot of fill, a lot of crushed stone. Yeah, you put a lot of the fill in there yourself, right?
Was that Dustin Road?
No.
No, this is an example
Yeah,
of
this is
a
another
project
one,
they
but
did.
It's just that we are involved with other areas, maintaining trails and old roads and keeping the access open and maintaining, so cutting back brush, putting in water bars, putting in culverts where they need to be, bringing in fill. grading, brushing, like, it's a lot of work. Gates here and there where they're needed to, gates don't stop people from going there, but it does deter some that they are,
And you said we, is it a group?
there's a lot of groups, like, so there's, like, we got volunteers from Hypertherm, there's snowmobile clubs, there's four-wheel drive clubs.
And your name?
I'm David Plumley.
Yeah. I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Whitney.
Like, that's a new gate that is installed.
This is,
That's some brushing that we did, so like a lot of it, getting all that debris out that's been left and cleaned up, like. So we have a lot of resources, equipment wise, to go in, clean up, haul this stuff, I'm not just discard and push to the side, we physically clean this stuff up, take care of it. So we, in between all, like, we've got dump trucks, we've got excavators, we've got trucks and trailers, we've got tons of resources to help.
nope, sorry.
But it's all volunteer, but the big thing for us is we're maintaining and doing all this volunteer work. So we do have the access to use it, the ability to use it. A lot of us are snowmobilers or we run Jeeps and other off-road vehicles.
Like
That's just, yeah, that's
another,
crushed
I
stones.
think they got that.
brought in.
You had shared this program, which I had forwarded.
Yeah, there's,
I don't think did I forward this one to you? Maybe I didn't.
No. I don't
Okay.
think You didn't see.
I'll send this one to you. So is that a possible?
Can you scroll back up?
yeah,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I
so
accidentally.
there's actually large
There you
resources
go.
monetary wise too that we can apply toward and help if we know where the help's needed, we can help do the applications and get the funds or.
Okay.
John Emerson. So I'm part of, in some of these pictures, so the same stuff that can be done in Enfield can be done in this case, this is in,
Well, this one right here, this is actually,
But that's a different-
this,
that's in Croydon.
yeah, this is Croydon Turnpike. Yeah.
Is this the one that laps around the reserve?
Yeah,
so I'm part of a group, it's called the New England Association of Four-Wheel Drive Clubs. I'm sitting on the development committee for a property that, a private property that the group has a lease on. It is abutted and access through class 6 roads. And different places all over will go in and help maintain that access. So the hunter that wants to get from point A to point B, where his family's hunted for generations, can get there and then do his walk out into the woods and get to, you know, that favorite loved spot. And a lot of the times that we're out there, we're keeping, you know, the group that I'm involved in and the club that I'm involved in has anything from what people would consider mild to wild. You know, there's plenty of street legal, everyday, full of ducks on the dashboard kind of Jeep that they'd love to put the top down, go out in foliage season, hear that crunch of leaves underneath, visit all the old graveyards, see the different places that they go, and how when this area was developed, you might go from one community to another community. Now we have big modern roads that go out and around and they're efficient to go that way, but back when it was slow going, we went the most direct route. So the group that I'm involved with, you know, isn't going out on class 6 roads. It's actually part of the charter and the initiative that we want to keep these roads intact. Most roads like this aren't available during certain parts of the season, during mud season. I remember, and I think some of the concern that I heard brought up, I was sitting in on the web meeting last time, was about the damage that gets done by wheeled vehicles on these roads when everyone is there to enjoy them. And whether you're hiking them, you're out there with the horses, whether you're whatever avenue that you access this area with, it gets damaged because of people in 4-wheel drive vehicles. I remember when I was a young kid, young and dumb, I was out and did something stupid, got stuck in a place I shouldn't have been. And there was a group like that I'm involved in now, that was out on a patrol, like the hiking patrols for the hiking trails we talked about. They went through and they would clean up class 6 roads. And I came up in my little 2-wheel drive truck with all my shovels and tools. And they said, so what'd you do? And I said, screw it up. I tried to go through whatever the name of the place was way back down in New. They said, huh? You won't do that again, will you? I said, no. They said, well, then we can help you get you out. And that group, I mean, I was up there with come along and shovels and stuff. They came out and they showed me proper recovery equipment, proper tools to be accessing different areas, helped me get myself out, sent me on my way. There was actually a conservation officer that was out on patrol in his pickup with them. And he and I had a nice conversation. And it was that opportunity to access things appropriately, to tread lightly, which is one of those things that we kind of live by. You go out, don't do any more harm. You can see our tracks, but you're not tearing things apart for the sake of tearing things apart. And I think that's a bad rap that a lot of people see on the internet. And I think young kids see it. And that's what we all fear. I fear it on my own property, finding kids tearing it up. And I think by having groups involved and maintaining legal access to do things responsibly and to get to these places and to travel the paths that generations and generations before traveled, it's an opportunity for stewardship among those of us that get a little older, a little smarter. And I know on a different note, as a first responder, knowing the trails in the community I used to live in, aided multiple times in getting to effective rescues. These kids that grow up out in the woods and the trails, which I would prefer my kids doing every day versus being on an iPad or computer. And however they got there, whether they hiked it, whether they were in their off-road vehicle, whether they just getting out, that gave me and some of my friends that had joined a local fire department access to multiple accident scenes, really, to be able to get there and do what we needed to do, because we were out and we knew how to get to where we could go. We knew what vehicles could get there, what couldn't get there. But just maintaining that knowledge of, I've been involved, I currently work for the town of Hanover on the fire department and have used class 6 roads and other trail networks on a regular basis to get to where you need to go, whether it be in brush fire season, whether it be in snowmobile accidents, whether it be the hunter that fell out of the tree, all tangled up in his gear. But just having as many interested and available parties having access to venture out beyond the paved or the maintained dirt roads just lets itself to a lot of opportunity to take advantage of those situations and get out and enjoy the woods however you do it. Thank you.
And did you have some comments you wanted to share? Not at this time.
Not yet.
Okay.
I have a question for Craig.
Pardon me?
I have a question for Craig. I don't know if you know, do you know how many miles of trails we currently have in that Enfield?
I know about how many miles we maintain. Let's see. Who wants to take and add all this stuff up?
You ask, you get handed
Well-
the project.
Because,
A rough number.
rough. Question would be, which miles are actually maintained by the town? Not all of the miles that, exist in the town, right? Which are maintained by it.
Yes.
All right, let's see, Bicknell Brook Trail, that's in. I say up to 2 miles. Sergi Marsh, half mile. They don't count the rail trail, they don't count the bike path.
And the Harrisburg is not on that. That predated the creation of the Harrisburg Trail.
So it did. And this is all year. But the town actually maintains very few of the trails or class 6 roads in the town, maintains no class 6 roads. Maintains by no means all the trails. Even very many of them. Not the trails that are on the fishing game land, not Coal Pond Trail, that's Cardinal Hamilers. Not Colette Trail, that is up by the Land Trust.
I think that's Trail Alliance, to be honest with you.
The which,
I think it's Apple Valley, Trails Alliance.
where?
Land Trust does, Smith Pond. Track.
Okay, they're on Smith Pond. But regardless, the question was about how many miles does the town actually maintain, and the answer is not so very many. Maybe about,
Yeah, I guess I was more interested in how many trails the town of Enfield has and that are maintained, not necessarily by the town of Enfield, just that are maintained. And my point is, it's quite a bit. It's quite a bit.
Anyone? Yes?
Hi, my name is Jamie Spataka. I live on the end of Hackett Road. In regards to the trails, yes, Enfield has an extraordinary amount of trails. I try to frequent them as often as I can because I'd rather be outside than inside on any day of the week. That's and why. So I have the kindness to have the state of New Hampshire as my neighbor. And that large white section there that has Half Mile Pond and all that is state conservation tract. The road on which I live on, going past these locally class 6 roads.
I can't. You're somewhere,
Hackett Road is next to Goodhue.
yeah, it was
Right
like you
there.
come in here where the logging is, right?
Yes,
So you're-
yes, so the state is currently doing some selective cutting in there as of January. 300 some odd quote, I believe.
Fishing game?
Yeah.
Fishing game?
Fishing game, yes. So they're using that said class 6 as access right now. And as from December to January, that trail access is widened substantially. So to say that road has not been improved would definitely not be in a current state because that road has been tenfold improved just in the last month. Courtesy of the state of New Hampshire, and I would thank them gladly for that because it is quite a nice road in there. And I imagine they would like to keep using that on their property they manage. And on side note, Goodhue Hill Road, it gives them direct access to all this locally conservation land. And they like to go in there and do selective cutting at times and be able to use that to run wheeled vehicles in. Makes life for them substantially easier. And I'm sure they would be more than willing, seeing what they've currently done on Hackett Road, to improve that in such means to where wheeled vehicle access is attainable. And personally, I do not understand what is being gained by changing this classification on these particular 2 roads, and because all it seems to be doing is limiting access to this gorgeous piece of tract of conservation land that is already restricted by the state of New Hampshire to foot and low impact traffic, which means you can snowshoe it, you can ski it. You can probably technically snowmobile in the winter, depending on where you go, as long as you're not just bushwhacking yourself through all that, but that's probably not the best idea in the world. But that being said, there's 2,000 some odd acres there that anybody in this room is more than welcome to parade through it on any given day of the week. And to restrict access to that by making the two only access points in the middle of this giant piece of track, a trailhead, seems very foolish to me. Because on the side note, this is fishing game land. There's people that like to hunt there and do other recreational activities. And by limiting the access to this, you're limiting people's use of this gorgeous piece of property.
Which they own.
Me, myself, I bought my house on the end of this said road 15 years ago. Specifically because I knew this class 6 road was there and I had the attainability to go out and explore this lovely piece of property by whichever means I dutifully feel necessary. And personally, I would love to keep doing that going forward and have my tax dollars be going towards that. That is the whole reason why I've offered in the first place. So it's rather upsetting to me that somebody wants to restrict that and limit that for others to use when there's no gain out of it. That's my 2 cents.
Anyone else like to have comments tonight?
Oh, looks like you've got one online.
Oh, thank you. I was gonna ask you, you know, it's hard to see from here if anyone has their hand up.
Good evening. My name is Rob Shydo, Shydo. And much like one of the other speakers that was here is I also run an outdoor organization that is related to responsible outdoor use. You mentioned Tread Lightly. I'm a Tread Lightly trainer. I'm also a 4-wheel drive and all-wheel drive instructor. And I've been reviewing some of the meeting minutes from November as well as the January minutes. And I think there could be a little bit of clarification. I don't think that there's anything inaccurate, but maybe slightly misleading about some of the comments that are in the minutes regarding the Class 6 roads and the transition to Class A trails. So regarding things like gates and bars, in the RSA, the definition of a Class 6 road means that it is subject to gates and bars, but it cannot be locked. So a trail can also have a gate on it, but a Class 6 road is also capable of having a gate on it as well. Regarding restrictions for things like mud season, there's precedent within the state of New Hampshire for other towns posting their roads for specific time periods of use. Many are actually closed starting in November or December for snowmobile season to allow those folks to have access to those spaces, but also specifically restrict the use of wheeled vehicles during that mud season where there may be more opportunity for damage to those trails. So even with Class 6 roads, if it is not maintained by the town does still have some liberty to impose use restrictions on those. One of the other things that the town has the ability to do is to restrict or to allow the use of OHRVs, off-highway recreational vehicles, which are a separate class of use vehicle for the state. The town has the opportunity to determine whether they want those vehicles to have access to Class 6 roads. So I know that there was reference in one of those previous minutes to four-wheeling. We should be a little bit clear about what the definition of four-wheeling is. So ATVs and side-by-sides would fall under the OHRV use, which the town does have the ability to permit or to not permit on those roadways. Whereas by definition, the Class 6 road is open to motorized vehicles that are registered and legal for use in other roads, Class 1 through Class 5. So if we talk about four-wheeling that is allowed on Class 6 roads, a licensed wheeled vehicle would be allowed on that if it is legal for use in other roads. Where if we're talking specifically about misuse or damage that could be caused by OHRVs, those would be covered by a different classification that the town can regulate without converting that road to a Class A or a Class B trail. So as someone who rides the roads, as someone who maps the roads, as someone who does services to the roads with cleanups, bringing out 4 to 5 vehicles, filling them up with trash when we find tires, misuse, those sorts of things. We also work with Fish and Game if we're seeing areas that are being specifically misused. Because perfectly honest, if a Class 6 road is being damaged, that is in fact damage of town property, which can be enforced through means of Fish and Game or the town itself. So personally, I work with Fish and Game. If I see misuse, if I see the tracks that are going off onto public property, those are the areas that my organization specifically would be working with the town, working with Fish and Game to make sure there's accessibility for all people. There's a really interesting group of people in the state. Some of those people have medical disabilities. So there was discussion of access to town lands, Fish and Game lands. If those people don't have wheeled vehicle access, motorized access, that area may be inaccessible to some of those people with disabilities as well. So there's a number of advantages of keeping this as a Class 6 road in the town. First would be public access, meaning that all folks can access it, but there was also discussion that the town does not maintain it, meaning that it would not be a source of, it would not require revenue from the town. Where there are organizations like the snowmobile clubs, the four-wheel drive clubs, or if they're given access, the OHRV clubs that will assist in maintaining those. So if there's areas that you do believe are subject to current misuse, let's engage some of those organizations, pool our resources together as opposed to pulling access for such a wide swath of user groups, if that is converted to a Class A or a Class B trail. Any questions on those comments? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there someone else on Whitney that?
Scott Hatch, I think, also had his hand up. But does not anymore.
Did anyone here have any questions? Yes.
I'm Sylvia Dow. I'm a property owner on the Dustin Road, which is a Class 6 road. Our driveway does use, we were given permission to use a part of Dustin Road to get to our driveway. And currently we do like to, if we, let's say we wanted to cut some firewood, to bring, you know, when it is dry, to get a truck up there to be able to access. We have a log landing that I share with my brother, John. We seldom bring a vehicle up there, to tell you the truth, but I think having that access and that ability, we have, through my brother's property, through Visions, and through my property with my husband, we have wonderful trails that is open to the public. You know, snowmobiles use it, the snowmobile club maintains it. Many people hike on it. I think it's a real wonderful, access point for individuals. And it's wonderful that it can be open, you know, for people utilizing the trails through the property. And I don't see any reason to change the use.
Shirley, I have a question.
Yes.
What is the purpose of doing this? Changing it from a Class 6 to a trail?
Kurt brought it to us. He was concerned with the damage being done on some of the
Right,
trails.
Is it damage?
Well, the condition, I walk a lot of these roads because I also like to be outside in the woods.
So, right.
And there's several of these trails that I've walked, off Class 6 roads that I have walked over the course of 30 years or so, have slowly degraded so that in some places, it was becoming difficult to just walk them.
Right.
And it was just going to continue degrading if nothing was done to upgrade them, or improve them. Fix the damage, I guess.
Right.
And, so I came up with a list of ones that of Class 6 roads, 8 of the 18 or 20, something to that effect, of Class 6 roads in town that I thought were the most beneficial, and to make it turn into a trail and allow the town to have greater control over what would be used on those trails.
Right.
And now these folks here have obviously done a lot of work in other towns, but the only trail, there's some Class 6 road in Enfield that I'm aware of that has any kind of extensive work done on it is Mud Pond Road.
I did it.
Okay, and that was what, this year?
Yeah.
Right, and what was the condition of that before?
Well, it was in rough shape.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, that's.
You couldn't even walk
So
it.
you stop, you know what I mean. when I
Yeah, we
say-
did it so we could run snowmobiles on it.
Right, what, so you couldn't do a snowmobile.
Right. Right,
It's also named Bud.
And enjoy it, because you were sinking into the mud holes.
right,
Yeah,
yeah, oh, yeah, that's why we did it.
Right, yeah.
But if it's a trail, you won't be able to do it at all.
Right, well, that's what I mean.
Why not? Why not?
That the rule
You
of.
can't run
trails?
equipment on
No.
trails.
That's my problem is, that is not the rule of a trail. It's just no.
You can't drive a
Currently,
Jeep up
Class
the,
6 road, the town cannot spend money, but you could probably contract or have private groups come in with their town permission and do it. With a trail, the town can do the same thing. There is no difference in how the trail is maintained versus a Class 6 road, other than whose money gets spent.
I'm certainly aware
I have a
that in other towns that have converted Class 6 roads to trails, and I'm thinking of Lebanon, the Patch Orchards,
yeah.
you cannot drive a snowmobile on those.
That is by their choice. They set the rules.
Who's they?
The town, city of Lebanon said on their trails, this is what is permitted. Enfield can do the same thing. This is what's permitted.
What is the point?
Why would we restrict?
Yeah, I don't understand the point.
Well, my
Seems like just a way to
my point was never to
siphon
restrict.
money from the town.
See, that's
to
the problem.
trails.
You keep hearing me saying my purpose was to restrict access. And I never said that.
Mhm.
That is in the minutes, but it wasn't for me. My
So what is
purpose
restricted?
was to fix the roadbeds so that they're passable for at least walking.
Excuse me,
At a minimum, start with walking.
here's the point, Kurt. The Dustin Road disqualifies everything you've just said,
How?
because the Dustin Road is perfect for walking.
Okay,
My
And
son-
first, the other
so
thing
let's
is,
keep it that way.
so why change it?
Because because are you gonna allow four-wheel drive, street legal four-wheel drive vehicles go onto your property anytime they wish?
We're not talking about my property, we're talking about the Dustin Road.
Yeah, they go up Dustin Road, you say it's okay to go on Dustin Road with those vehicles and it's not a problem. Would that be a problem if they started going onto your trails?
That's not the,
Snowmobiles, no.
Okay,
I do
okay.
have signs forbidding
Yes.
wheeled
And
motorized
the reason you
vehicles.
do that is the same.
No,
thing
the
my
reason I
concern is.
do that is I don't want some dog getting run over.
No, I mean, the dog can get run over and Dustin Road.
Wait,
But we're getting sidetracked
David, do you
here.
have a, do you
We're
have,
getting sidetracked, sorry.
So the big thing is like with a class 6. You have no restriction. You're saying you're not looking to restrict to going to a class A. Like he was saying here, what's the point of changing it? But, and I know right now you're not saying restricted, but in the future it could be restricted. And if it did get restricted, you'd alienate a lot of the volunteers that would be doing the work. Because the people that are volunteering are doing the volunteer work because they're gonna get access to use it for snowmobiling or.
I mean, it would be more than that, great. Leave it as a class 6, and if you folks were willing to go out and take a look like this gentleman did.
Well, the
And
problem,
say,
my point, is nobody's ever maintained it in eons of
none of these
years.
other roads have been.
I know it, that's the thing.
That's my point, is none of these roads have ever been maintained
Right.
since they became class 6.
Right,
That's actually not true. Dustin Road, much of it has been maintained by myself and my lot.
By.
How long is Dustin Road? Half a mile?
I know.
That's not a big walking trail.
Yeah, but there's these other class 6 roads in town could use the same kind of improvements.
So what you're saying is if you want to improve other roads,
Could
you
you
ought to
have a road?
improve this road.
that is
No, it
going to
doesn't.
be a conservation track.
Kurt,
How do you,
excuse
how
me,
do you, how do you do road improvement in state conservation land?
You can't. Well, the class 6 road is a town road. Fish and game property does not allow motorized vehicles without permission.
Right,
Without
which is
direct
on
permission.
either side of that road, so.
Yes,
So
yes.
by definition, you make that a trail, you limit the amount of access to 2,000 plus acres of state conservation tract
I'm not, only if the town wishes to.
for
limit the
wheeled
access.
vehicles.
Only if the
Period.
town wishes to do that.
No, by definition of the RSA, it restricts from wheeled vehicles.
The
That
gentleman,
is the way the verbiage reads.
Excuse me, could you, raise your hand when you want to speak, so we're not all speaking at once, okay?
I just got another
Did you
question.
give your name?
If you change the class 6 road to
You
a
need to give your name.
Mel Keniston, if you change the class 6 road to a trail, right? What in the event of, I mean, if there's people, property owners that own property on all those, on those roads. So that limits them, if they ever, somebody wanted to change that into a town road or fix it up to be a town road, would they be able to do that if it's a trail?
No, it's gone
Yes.
forever.
no,
Yeah,
you have
no,
to convert
no.
it back.
You go to town meeting, same as the process, you just reverse the process at town meeting.
Right.
It's a long, very long process, is the short.
Oh, yeah.
Shirley, the gentleman online who was having trouble with his sound before,
Oh.
got his hand back up, just thought I'd tell you.
Yes, hi, thank you very much, and I appreciate your patience. Had to deal with getting a speaker on, a line. First, my name is Scott Hatch, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak before the board today. I, first of all, just wanted to say I'm also a member of the Northeast Association of Four-Wheel Drive Clubs, one of the founding members, very supportive of all types of access and recreation on Class 6 roads. And while I understand that there's many different opinions as to, Class 6 roads, their usage and how this all benefits one way or another the community, I just think it's very important to note that a Class 6 road is more inclusive to the majority of forms of recreation versus reclassifying a Class 6 road to a Class A trail does make it a lot more restrictive, and also it puts more of a responsibility onto the town and onto others to ensure maintenance to the trail so that it's able to be accessed by individuals, cutting back the woods in order so that the trail doesn't grow in. Also in support of the Class 6 roads, there are, other forms of recreation outside of motorized recreation, such as equestrians often use Class 6 roads for their own form of recreation. Many of the other things have already been said as far as, that. I'm also an avid hunter. I use many Class 6 roads to access areas that I wouldn't be able to access. I am a veteran. I do have, related injuries from my time in the service, and I would not be able to access the Fish and Game land from any other way than using that Class 6 road, to access that. I physically cannot, walk a 2,000 acre property, to hunt, so restricting that would further, not just for myself, but others as well, restrict our access to areas that we currently access today. There's also, accessing these roads for emergency purposes. I know we're blessed here in the Northeast where we don't see wildfires like they do in the West. However, this also allows access for different, vehicles to access this in the event that there is a brush fire. That is a very common occurrence within the springtime. This allows access to further properties and areas that the firefighters wouldn't be able to get to as easily. It also impacts property values and the rights of different homeowners if they were restricted from a Class 6 road to a Class A trail. Many people rely on a Class 6 road to access these. It was mentioned, how some of these properties are being lawned. That could be one of the only ways to access some of these properties is through a Class 6 road. And finally, again, I think, from a eco-tourism, point of view, Class 6 roads bring a lot to many different communities that may not see the type of, foot traffic and financial benefits, when these Class 6 roads are taken away. So just bringing that, perspective forward. And again, thank you very much for allowing me the time to speak.
Thank you. Is there anyone else online?
Yep, you've got another hand up for Mr. Shivo.
Okay.
Yep. So I think that the last two speakers have made some very interesting points. And I think that one of the perspectives that I can bring is that I have been through many, many of the towns in New Hampshire and been personally on over 1,000 of the Class 6 roads. And while there are certainly areas that it is obvious that vehicles have traveled and may cause visible, marks that those vehicles have traveled there, the most damaged roads that I see are the ones that are actually no longer driven. Those are the ones that the trees have fallen over. They have diverted the natural water flow as it would go through that area, diverts it down, and you're left with piles of bedrock. So from that perspective, use of vehicles is certainly one thing that can cause a trail or a Class 6 road to change, but lack of use or lack of maintenance is another thing that can cause it to change as well. Some of the roads that I have found have not been walkable, and it has not been due to vehicle traffic. It has been due to erosion or foliage that has taken over or those sorts of things. And that is what prevents access to those areas as well. The towns and the roads that you find people using more frequently are the ones that actually tend to be in better condition. So I don't want to take away from anyone's discussions about the ways that the roads can become damaged. But again, that access, the opportunity for people to see the different areas of the states, there's cellar holes that are visible from those Class 6 roads. There were 249,000 miles of rock walls in New Hampshire in 1849. All of those things are visible, and we would lose some people's access to those particular parts of our state and our history if we were to restrict some of the use of those spaces. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Kate?
So I have a proposal just to give us some action direction, because what I'm hearing is overall people are pretty happy having access to the roads. And that seems mostly like we have a lot of opportunities to improve. So I'm proposing, what if we, as a commission, engage with local stakeholders to create some form of volunteer team to evaluate the Class 6 roads that we do have, determine priorities, and develop a plan to repair and maintain the trails using volunteers and donations. I heard some people want to use town monies, which you can't do, but I think I've vastly heard that people are interested in the volunteer portion. I'm going to put my personal hat on and say, I think people are very sensitive right now to around me as a human, to how much how many taxes they're paying. How New Hampshire is particularly tax heavy. And I think we have a lot of things we take on in government that aren't necessarily the government's job. They're a nice thing to have. And I think it's a nice idea to spend tax dollars on a road. But if we have to pick between services, maybe do we want to have an inch of snow or 3 inches of snow on the road versus do we want a Class 6 road to get new gravel? I think those are the things, putting my select board hat on, that we're asked to weigh out, to try to be fair to taxpayers. So I think we have an opportunity here to take advantage, see what we can do to get these roads, because, I've grown up on a lot of them, and they haven't gotten, they've gotten the shovels that we've used personally and us cutting limbs and dragging limbs. But I would like to see us do some, we have a trail master. We've talked about possibly doing a garden club. I think this is another really great area where we could bring all of these resources together and put them to work so people could enjoy our natural resources better. So I don't know what you guys think, and I don't know all the details.
I think do you want to add something to this conversation?
Do I?
Yes.
What do you think?
Okay. First off, I have read the entire minutes of this discussion from January 2nd meeting. And I'm now glad to see several of the people who were talking about things then have returned, and they've elaborated on the remarks. So there's a lot of interest there. There's an awful lot of competence and dedication that I see among the various people who will step forth, get their boots muddy and their gloves dirty, and will actually maintain a trail. I am going to have to say that overall, as I see the law, is a usually counterproductive move to make these Class 6 roads into Class A or B trails. And this is more especially true where we have people who are knowledgeable and dedicated and willing to volunteer to maintain the class 6 roads. So they have technique and tools and knowledge. There is other sources of technique and knowledge. I don't personally maintain motorized trails, but does anyone recognize this? Best management practices for erosion control on motorized trails in the state of New Hampshire. This is the 1994 edition. I'm sure they've come out with more recent ones. Point of it is that in terms of maintaining these roads to be in stable condition for vehicles, all of the techniques are already well known and are indeed promoted by the State Bureau of Trails. So where I come down to is I'm seeing opportunity. First off, we have the volunteers who already know how to and do a good job maintaining the trails they do. That means that the whole business of protecting trails from the erosion by misuse is a red herring. It is not happening to any noticeable extent. It takes a long time for a trail that is used very lightly to erode to the point where it is difficult to use to impassable. In fact, as someone has said, more likely it is a total abandonment of a route that will cause that more likely than just maintaining it. Second is, I would like to point out something that I have photographed today. This happens to be at the Route 4 end of Old County Road, but the town of Enfield posts signs at either end of its responsibilities for class 6 roads. And I'm gonna quote that, and it says, class 6 road, not maintained, pass at own risk, no wheeled vehicles from March 1st to May 31st, per order of selectmen. That's what Enfield puts there. They take care of at least 2 of their duties and obligations just of that one sign. They are able to close it during mud season, which is, by the way, a important part of the authorities that they have, because they do have complete authority for the maintaining or the impacts on class 6 roads, even though they are not allowed to use the town's money to maintain it. They still have the same authority to regulate it as they ever do. The vision that I'm seeing here is that it becomes quite possible to use capable and willing volunteers who can use their own equipment and tools and who can scrounge what few materials we actually need. And they either know or can soon learn how to put in stable bits of fill, water bars, retaining walls, bridges. I mean, they've done a lot of this stuff. I confess that I've done a few of those things. The trail crew I have the privilege to lead has built 25 bridges more complicated than bog bridges since 1986. And so we can certainly work together. There's a lot of talent out there. There's a lot of goodwill. And if we do something like consider that RSA 50817 actually allows the town to have such a crew of volunteers. And I have Rob Taylor checking on this particular item with the town attorney. Then it becomes entirely possible to have a team under the auspices of the town, not using town money and not risking having any of these roads become class 5 roads due to the fact that, again, according to the ways for class 5 to become a class 6, they can be discontinued subject to gates and bars, as requires a vote by the town meeting.
Mhm.
Or you cannot maintain it for a period of at least 5 successive years.
Which is,
Turn that one on its head. Turn that one on its head. That says if you maintain a class 6 road for a period of 4 years, and then you don't maintain it for a 5th year, where are you then? You have not turned this into a class 5 road because you are not maintaining it for at least 5 years. You're only maintaining it for 4 years.
I mean, if the town themselves doesn't contribute any money to the upkeep,
And they're not.
I think we'd be
They wouldn't have
okay. But we're legally barred from it anyways.
Yes,
So,
but given what I've just told you and what I've discovered in the law and what is being researched,
Okay.
we might just be in a sweet spot for having volunteers do maintenance work and rebuilding and so on at their own expense with their own materials on class 6 roads. They can be kept up to such standards as they are stable against erosion from misuse or storms. And they don't have to become class A trails. Indeed, the necessity of maintaining the public right of way and public use of that, especially the landowners, I mean, they have a right to get in there to harvest timber or grow things. It says so right in statute. We are much better off keeping class 6 roads, maintaining them with a crew of dedicated volunteers.
Mhm.
And the other thing in this particular RSA 50817 that is useful for actually all of us here. RSA 50817 is titled Volunteers and Nonprofit Organizations Liability Limited. And I want to read just the first paragraph of it. Roman 1. Any person who's a volunteer of a nonprofit organization or government entity shall be immune from civil liability in any action brought on the basis of any act or omission resulting in damage or injury to any person if A, the nonprofit org or the government entity has a record indicating that the person claiming to be a volunteer is a volunteer for them, and B, the volunteer is acting in good faith and within the scope of their functions and duties. And the damage or injury is not caused by willful, wanton, or grossly negligent misconduct by the volunteer. So, given all that, it is certainly foreseeable that you can have a crew of volunteers. And not only are they known to the town, recognized by the town, they are volunteering for the town, but they're volunteering for the town. They are not being paid. The town money is not going to this. And as long as they are doing this above board and they sign up with the town and have to sign the town's waiver attendance sheet every day they work, then they are not liable. The town, of course, is not liable anyway. I see this as a win-win situation.
Yeah,
I'm gonna pass out copies of this particular RSA to members of the commission.
Great.
And this is not the end of this study because, like I said, I asked Rob Taylor to contact the town's attorney on it. It's too important to be left to my interpretation of the RSA's.
I mean, if you guys are up for it, I'd be happy to work and talk to Rob as well. Just around how do we organize, and what's the process? We already have a volunteer form. We already have a
We
signing.
already do know how to organize and
Well, like-
raise a trail crew.
Right, exactly. And so I think,
We do not need to reinvent that wheel.
I think that if we can just follow that from a legal standpoint, like, do we need a motion? Do we need to make it an official
I
whatever?
think,
Voice over here.
Yeah.
Just a side note, Hackett Road does not have any signage at the beginning of the Class 6 road. I've had people come up the road and look for that road because I have hand cut that open for the last 15 years that I've been there. I don't know what is considered road maintenance, but I've personally gone up that road and walked it and hand cut that road to keep it open the entire time that I've lived there. But there's no signage at the end of that road. That would be helpful for some people looking to build access to go there to know where the actual road, I mean, it's obviously way more apparent now due to the state's logging, but in due time, that will grow back in. And signage there, or at least where the trailhead is, because it is all private land around that entry point, and proper signage there would do due diligence. Just food for thought.
I can
We
email,
already have the text.
Pardon
We
me?
already use
I
it.
can email Jim and see if we have some, and it's just
Yeah.
something, sometimes,
You
They're
don't.
riding horses up through there.
I checked it today.
oh, okay, we
Sure.
don't have any, I'm sorry.
They do order more.
Yep,
Um,
nice ride.
Jay, you
Yeah.
sent some comments.
Yep.
Would you like to share your comments?
Transom side.
Basically, I totally agree with,
They've been covered.
yeah.
Yeah.
They've covered.
Going
I
north.
don't, nothing new that I
Didn't have my-
Got a comment from Jean.
Okay, Jean?
Gate
Hi.
somewhere else.
If I could, and this has been a very vibrant discussion, it seems to me, I've been taking notes and listening carefully, and I'd only like to add that I think we ought to realize that one size does not fit all, perhaps, in this situation, and that what might exist on one Class 6 road based on the topography, based on the homeowner's, need for access or not. There's lots of variables here. So I think that we should take into consideration the fact that just because one thing is true, it doesn't sweep away everything else. And so we ought to be able to mix these different needs in different situations for different reasons. Some Class 6 roads might give that access to people who really enjoy, getting to the inner forest for enjoyment, for health reasons, for, tradition. Whereas, some of this Class 6 roads aren't going to lead to such a spot. So I just think we need to be careful of sweeping statements. I also think we need to be, and just leave room for flexibility in this. Again, guiding principles, I've drafted some, we can talk about those as a group. But I also think we need to, it sounds like from just people quoting RSAs and the law that there's kind of various laws that pertain in different ways to this. So I just think it's important, and I know we plan to get some sort of, legal opinion or guidance on this. I think that's very important. So I just wanted to go on record with those 2 points.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments?
I just want to reiterate what I mentioned at the previous meeting, and it would be really helpful, after the snow is gone, to go out and physically do a physical walk of these roads, and not just the ones that I'm proposing, but all the Class 6 roads in town and I mean, there's only like possibly three Class 6 roads that actually have signage on them stating that they are a Class 6 road. Most of them are just this cut in the trees. That's when you go by, that's all you see. And unless that is actually a Class 6 road, you have no idea it's there. So, and then you can get an assessment of, okay, these are the ones that need the help of these guys to bring them up to a reasonable standard for multiple use. And others are gonna be like, well, the amount of time and effort is just not worth it. And they just, whatever grow in, even though the right of way will always be there. But it's just too far gone.
I think that's a good idea to look at all of them.
Triage.
That's what I was,
Yeah.
kind of when my.
Right,
Yes.
well, triage is what you
Yeah,
do
but
in
you have to
emergencies.
go out and look at each one to determine what you want to do.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
triage is what you do in emergencies when you have more victims than you have rescuers. It
Prioritize.
is not something that we have to do automatically, especially as time goes on and we take care of one thing, we can then deal with others.
I was gonna say, it's Dave Foley again, but they say it's more like an assessment of the condition of the roads. And maybe you can't go fix all of them the first year, but we can establish a plan, goals, get resources lined up and just kind of get them on a schedule.
Exactly.
yes. That would be great. And it sounds like they have volunteers that be here to do that.
I'm sending Jim 2 questions on the signs. What's the process? And, how do you get, what's the general process? And then how do we get a road that isn't signed? Assigned, and then, do we need anything else from Jim Taylor?
Because
Yes.
I had the state of New Hampshire didn't even know actually it was listed as a class 6 road in Enfield.
Really?
Barking the trees to kind of this fall. Because they were informed by the road agent that it was, that they'd be classified. And I had to promptly tell them that no, it was still a class 6 road, because they were unaware.
We don't have a road agent, but I think everyone, there's like half the town.
They contacted somebody.
Yeah, no, in the highway
They-
garage. who
And
knew.
nobody could actually tell.
Our highway guys know, but I will tell you, we have a lot of self-appointed people who tell the state how to do stuff too.
Well, they talked to somebody in
Yeah.
the highway.
Oh, good.
department,
Yeah,
They
they
were
know.
clearly misinformed. I had to let them know that, no, yes, that is indeed.
It does not have a sign. I will tell Jim.
Right, now, you see this?
Craig has the photo. Yes, that's the one.
That is the text.
That's the standard sign. Standard, I'm gonna call it the standard Enfield sign. Okay. So that's done. In terms of just getting an answer on that, just that little component. Do you want me to follow, like, I mean, anybody can do it, but, or I can try to organize the like details of how to get the process into a more cohesive so that we're moving forward.
Because I feel like
I can work with Craig and Jim.
seems like there's a consensus to try to keep these from being changed to trails.
I think the other thing is there's a really great possibility for a crossover of volunteers on both the pedestrian trails and the class 6 roads. So if they'd like,
The word is all willing workers are welcome.
yes. So it's up to the board though. I'm willing to do that piece. I don't have anything on my plate on your behalf right now.
Mhm.
Is everybody else okay with that?
I'm definitely considering you.
Because I'd love to see us do, I mean, if it makes sense
I
to
think
do
it's a
it.
good thing to think on.
I'll take that action item. I don't think it needs a motion unless we have to do a formal, something more formal down the road. And we'll hear back once, like Craig already started that inquiry and
I'll
It may not
forward
be-
my, oh, sorry, I'll forward my notes and, some guiding principles that we discussed last time. And that was my assignment. So I'll just forward that to you.
Right.
Jeannie, if you send it to Shirley and to, Rob can send it around.
Got it. Thank you.
Then at some point, we'll have an organized walkthrough of all the trails.
Yes.
The roads, not trails, sorry.
Class 6 roads, yeah.
Okay. I wrote myself a to-do list.
Okay.
I think this is up. I want to thank the public because I learned a lot, in this process and I didn't go, discussion. And I think, this committee doesn't have a ton of attendance usually. It's not a super lively committee, but I think it's, but no, I'm saying thank you. Like, I'm saying thank you to everyone. It's a great conversation. And sometimes when we're having a conversation, we learn a lot and we have a great opportunity. Here's one.
And I think when you come together, you can accomplish so much more together. These do classics do mean a lot.
I was gonna say, three of us here work at Hypertherm, and I've mentioned it in the last meeting, but we have an extensive amount of our resources that we.
That's great.
Save your 20-25 hours
Coffee,
for
you,
us.
sir. One o'clock.
We want your 25 hours. 40 hours, 25.
Would you all, when we take when we have a tour of the roads, would you like to join us?
Yeah, that's it.
I only work 8 days a month, so I'm
That's
available
awesome.
I'm sorry, Mr. Anderson, you only work what?
8 days a month.
Wow.
I work
Okay,
24 hours at a time,
okay,
and I got a lot of discretionary time to goof off. For work.
you're in great company here.
You gotta watch out with these guys. They'll sign you up for anything.
Oh, yeah.
That one in the corner especially.
Shush.
Dave didn't warn you about me, did he?
Just because my cousin's your mother doesn't mean you have to go and tell everybody everything.
Oh, and I left a lot on the table, trust me.
I know.
I really like to thank you all for coming, because this is a special resource in our town that means a lot to a lot of people, and it's good to see people come together and want to do something that will keep it the way it is to make it possible to take care of them.
Shirley, if I might, I have one more thought. I think this has been, again, a very vibrant and important discussion, and I think a lot of viewpoints have been aired, which is good. I think as a Conservation Commission, it's important that we speak about the additional thing that I think is probably on everybody's mind, but I don't know that it got said very much, but our job is to conserve and protect nature and wildlife. And that's got to be up on, on the list of, I'll call them guiding principles as well. That's our job, is to make sure we keep that in the discussion. So wanted to add that.
And it's exciting to see so many of you turn out that want to do that. Yeah,
Actually, I've got notes for myself.
thank you for coming.
And you can stay and hang out with us for the rest of it if you want.
You don't have to leave.
But we won't make that. Everybody, this is.
But you can.
Yeah.
Hey, there's 2 emails. I put them in the notes, but just so you know, the online folks get like, here's my email if you.
Oh, I can pick, I will go pick it up out of the.
I do have it, I know, in
Can we
the.
put this issue to bed as far as saying they're not going to approve class rates?
They're not recommended, yeah.
And then, I want to end that and pursue
Until we swear.
this win-win.
That's what I
think you're right, Tom. I think we need
I think that's what I thought we should do as this commission.
That's why I'm bringing it up right now.
Got a couple more culverts.
That's a really good point. It's just to be very clear.
Yes.
Vote on our recommendation.
I'll make a motion to that effect. I'll make a motion that we.
Can we
Wood chips, because some people.
have a single conversation?
Can we have you just step out there just so we can hear each other? Thanks. It's good, no, it's good conversation, but hearing and hearing and here is a challenge. I will make a motion, to, okay, wait, let me say this next. Let me try. Recollect myself. Okay. We had good language and then I paused and now it's, you know what, it goes away. No, it wasn't you, no, it does. So we're saying that we're going to I'm gonna make a motion that the Conservation Commission not pursue actively looking at converting class 6 roads to either class of trails at this time, and that we pursue.
I would say in lieu of that.
Well, and I would say I would pursue engaging with local stakeholders to create a volunteer team to evaluate town class 6 roads, determine priorities, and develop a plan to repair and maintain trails employing volunteers and donations to the best of our ability.
I'll second that. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
Okay.
Because I think that's a route we clearly need to go.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
Put it to vote.
Yep.
I think we're unanimous. I think we all totally agree with that.
Okay.
Gene? No,
Oh,
you're
Gene, we can't
muted.
hear you.
Can you read on?
I mean, Jean Belgrosky, Hinshaw, aye. Did that get seconded?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Shirley seconded it.
Aye,
Shirley.
sorry.
Did you hear my aye? I'll say it again. Ed Rippey, aye.
Kate Funlacer, yes.
Jay Wellens, yes.
Shirley Green, aye.
Tom Claus, aye.
Okay.
Hey.
Very good.
Well, I think
Thank you, Kate.
Yeah, no,
that,
I've been trying to take
You
notes.
worded that very well.
Thank you. I've been trying to
Hmm.
distill it into something while I talk.
and
I'm not trying to be rude to you when I'm clicking over here. I'm
I
actually taking.
think we learned a lot through this about our,
When you take.
No, I agree.
and, it's a very important thing to protect.
Yeah. Well, and I think leaving those crossing the wildlife corridor for the corridors, like right now, the wildlife are using those too.
Yeah.
So it's good for us, it's good for them.
Yeah.
Keeping it so that it's safe and usable and open.
But you think of the people, that's the only way they can get out there.
Yeah, that's,
Oh, a lot of good points were brought up that I wouldn't
You
even
know-
thought of.
You know,
So much,
brought a lot of people together with that, and it was kind of good.
yeah,
really glad that the
absolutely.
public got involved and.
It's good to
shared.
ask questions.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And really, his end objective is gonna get achieved.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
yes.
I
Only,
think it's, oh, sorry, I think it's important to remember that while he brought it up a certain way, and he took a little bit of a beating for kind of, being certain things that were being ascribed to that, like it meant not other things, and I don't think that's what he was trying to say, but I think we found our way there through that active dialogue. Yeah, yeah.
because the minute, the word restrictions comes into something, it.
Yeah.
it's-
Changes everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need, if
It's
you have
New Hampshire.
restrictions, just, how would you enforce? it?
Yes.
Yeah.
You couldn't.
I think the theme was pretty much identical, both meetings, the last meeting and this one. Pretty much came to the same conclusions. We
Yeah.
saw a lot of work that was being done by a lot of people, which we didn't realize was being done. And it's wonderful. And I'm thankful for everyone that was doing that. And Kate, those pictures, seeing some of that machinery and stuff like that was cool.
We don't believe that in the town of Enfield.
Yeah, that wasn't Enfield.
One of those is my brother, I'll be
Yeah.
totally honest. Those is my brother's excavator. I'm gonna make him work for us. I'm the older sister.
Okay, so did any of that really happen in Enfield then?
But I think,
No, because we can't just have them go driving up trails, but in neighboring Grafton, they just did a ton of work.
I think be
And encourage-
grateful that we do take a tour and that we invite the groups.
Yeah.
with
And
us.
the snowmobile club though did do substantial work.
Oh, yeah.
And I
Yeah.
can tell you, the chips that they put down, the
Oh,
wood
yeah.
chips, and the work and stuff, was volunteer and well coordinated by them. And then the wood chips came from a local business called Fox Tree.
Mhm.
My husband happens to work. So I was like, hey, how's your wood chip situation looking, friend? Because I know I talked to you guys before. I have trails on my property. We chip them and leave them open as corridors for the wildlife. One of the great reasons to do that when you're a farm is that they pass by your farm animals. Right? They get their spot, they get their happy life, and my animals don't get eaten. That's the goal.
Oh, I really feel good about the way it turned out.
Yeah, me too. I'm very, very happy. I don't know, I didn't get my agenda to open.
Okay, the next thing on is the Shaker Boulevard Bridge, and at our last meeting, we talked about it. But and there were questions that we could give comments on, and I checked and see, I think one of the things that you didn't realize at the last meeting is the Conservation Commission is asked to comment on this by the conservation. It's not through Rob. He will be commenting from his department.
Yeah.
They asked the Conservation they send us to the Conservation Commission, the Heritage Commission, and Rob's the Land Use and Community Development. And I have gotten some comments from Ed and also Jay that sent me two in a month, and I got in touch with the person who sent the letter, and asked him if we needed to get back to him before this meeting, and he said no. So any comments we have, we can share, and any other comments I can put together and send to him.
Okay.
So, I don't know if you'd like to go over the comments you made yourself?
Yeah, I just, my comments were that obviously the Knox River is a significant natural resource and its water course should be protected. It is in the highest ranked wildlife habitat for that biological region, so it's important. My thought was, is if the temporary bridge is functioning well, as is, and showing no signs of decay, I would recommend leaving it alone. If the bridge is in need of repair, I would recommend, obviously, there needs to be a bridge there. If it is in need of repair, I would recommend that the work be done that does not alter the flow or the route of the existing river. I would also ask whether it is necessary to build a 24-inch wide bridge to accommodate 2 vehicles. The narrow bridge now functions as a speed reducer, which improves overall safety for a lakeside area where people, pets and bikes and children are often using the road. Is bigger always better? Those are my comments.
Okay.
Thank you. Ned, would you like to do yours, or you would like me to read it?
Sure,
Are you
no,
feeling
I can do mine.
Great.
I agree with most of what Jay just said. And I come up with some similar recommendations, but what I did was I looked at the letter that the Beta group had written, and they had listed 10 or 11 different questions that they wanted answers from that related to us. And of those questions, I found 5 of them. Let's see, 3, 5, 6, 7. I found 4 of them that pertain to us. So essentially, question 3 deals with, are there any known wildlife corridors or habitat strongholds in the vicinity of the project? They're not in the immediate area, but they're pretty darn close. They're across Route 4A, and there's some large wildlife corridors, but I don't think this project would affect that. Number 5 says, are there any public parks, recreation areas, conservation lands, or wildlife waterfowl refuges in the vicinity? And there's a very large conservation land, again, across 4A, but it's pretty far away from where this construction would be done. Question 6 says, are there any significant water resources or related protection areas in the project vicinity? And if I was there, I would show you, I had a map attached to this list that I made. There is an aquifer that is right there at the bottom of Mascoma Lake, and right in very darn close to where this bridge would be replaced. And then 7 is, are there any water quality concerns? And my comment to that is, the only concern I would have is any work that's going to be done so close to the lake and the river that there would be protective things put up to prevent contamination of the bodies of water.
Great.
So in summary, I say, it's my opinion that a small permanent bridge could be constructed at the site, but it does not need to accommodate 2 passing vehicles, since the traffic volume there is minimal at best. And I agree with Jay that it's actually a good thing to slow it down, even though no one's going to be driving too fast through there anyway. And then I say that this project can be done as long as the nearby aquifer and the wild management areas, and there's historic deer yards there too, not too far away, as long as they're not impacted, or is Lake Mascoma. And I don't think that they would be, but those were just my thoughts. I had a good time breaking out the maps and the natural resource inventory book there, and looking at stuff and figuring it all out. And I actually drove there the other day and took a look at the bridge itself, and it's kind of a crappy looking thing. So I don't know. I'm not an engineer, so I don't know how much work it really does need, it, how necessary it is to replace it. But
I can tell you a little about the bridge itself. Enfield owns, I believe, 2 Bailey bridges. That's what it's called, is a Bailey bridge. And it's basically a bridge we can use it's temporary, but it's a good structure, right? It's not
Mhm.
pretty, and you can set it in, and so that, during Hurricane Irene, that bridge was one of the things that went out. I'm pretty sure it was Hurricane Irene.
Yeah.
And so we had used one previously on, I know, Boys Camp Road. So we have one sitting up here. So we keep them as a backup. They're very, very inexpensive. The state of New Hampshire, the history on this project is the state of New Hampshire came to us, and I'm pretty sure it was they approached us and not the other way around. They know we have a temporary bridge in. And there were funds available. So I had the same reaction as you. I'm like, I'm fine with this cheap skate bridge. It keeps
Yeah.
people going slow and there's nothing wrong and it doesn't cost any money. But
And there's
But if
a
we
lot
stay-
of traffic on Boys Camp, and that's a single.
when the state offers to pay a
I was gonna
substantial
say.
portion of a project and we can have that bridge to possibly use somewhere else eventually, there's, you know, I get it. But I personally love the one lane bridge and I really.
Yeah. I think
I
it's,
like this spot.
it's where they should.
I don't know if they're gonna agree to do it because the state, once you get involved, they can make, I'll tell you, the Oak Hill bridge project, we did very inexpensively and very carefully, and the town, I say we, but the town's team did it from an approach of, trying to lower the impact. So instead of trying to put a culvert in, if you stay away from the middle of the stream bed, right, and you are spanning it, the permitting process is a little bit different. This is me very, very loosely paraphrasing what I learned. So, but we also learned, when the state was like, oh, we could have helped you, it would have been, but it was like over $1 million more. I think we spent 300 something. They were like,
But
oh, it's a $1.3 million project. So if they really want to spend money to do a nice, decent bridge, I guess I get it.
I mean, so it sounds like we'd like to recommend that it be one lane.
I would suggest one lane, but
Yeah,
here's my
And the
suggestion.
only one that hadn't spoke to that is Jean. What do you think, Jean?
I would say one lane with sidewalk, with, pedestrian passage,
Mhm.
because that is,
Pedestrian
Yeah.
people are down there enjoying the natural resource.
in the middle, looking at the river,
Right, and they're, yeah, and
have a
so,
barrier.
right, yeah. So that they
Yeah,
can access it, but not necessarily have the crazy traffic.
I think two lanes is a bad idea, for
Yeah.
sure.
both
For the reasons, for the reasons stated. So, yeah. And I tend to, I think we ought to challenge ourselves to look at it and do as little as we need to really do. Those are big numbers that Kate's, talking about here for, how it is. You get started doing one thing and then it always, you find 3 other things. So if the current bridge is safe, or if there's something to make it safe or to add walkways or whatever needs to be done, I'd be in
Yeah.
favor of, huh?
You can't, it's a temporary, it's like, if you've ever built a bridge, like as a kid for a little competition where you set blocks on it. I'm not trying to say it's that kind of, but it's just a very basic bridge. They pick it up with a crane and they set it in place. So there's no opportunity to modify it.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
can't tell you that. The
Well-
numbers I was giving you though, just so we're clear, were Oak Hill Bridge. So, I don't know what the current figure is on Shaker. I'm sure they told me. It is not
Maybe
my
we should
bridge.
find out. Maybe we should
Yeah.
find out, what's really involved, but I'm in favor of single lane and safety.
Shirley, if you're gonna write it, do you wanna just call the town office instead of having me tell them?
Okay. Yeah.
Cause they could tell you what the project
Yeah,
has
I
to,
think we're all in favor for just a single lane if it has to be built. Yeah.
and they've already done substantial, like they've done their borings. I don't know if you remember, there was a road closing for it. So they've done their test borings to kind of determine what they're working with. So I think they have a pretty good idea on engineering costs.
Okay.
So the number you get should be pretty decent. Not to say things can't surprise you. but-
Okay.
I mean, we didn't answer
Jean
number
or
one.
Tom, do you have any other comments you want to add? The questions?
I-
See,
Yeah, I've nothing.
Whitney has the questions up there.
I
Oh, you did.
I snuck it in because you were doing such a nice job reading of it, and then I was like, oh, it'd be nice to have them on screen.
Computer is not
Num-
for projecting either.
It does not like things that are heavy files. Number 11, I have in my head that we know that we have the invasive species inventory. What I don't know is if any of those items are in that area, and the snow cover, I was like,
Let's see, we can find that out.
I feel like, I feel like one of the things is, I know when I go along Mascoma Lake, I definitely see knotweed in different spots. I definitely see loosestrife. I'm like, can I remember if it's in that area?
I can't.
But, maybe, on the,
We could get that report.
I think it's online somewhere. I mean, I'm sure it is. It's just me trying to find it. But I wonder if could Rob help us on that?
Probably.
And he could maybe just see if we covered that particular area.
If not, he might know where to go.
What is the risk with that, with a risk of spreading it
Yeah.
more?
Yeah.
with the
So one of the
construction?
top spreaders of, non-native invasive plants in New
Yeah.
Hampshire
Okay,
is the state of New Hampshire, and it's not because they're doing it maliciously. They're driving a big truck, they're doing a project, they
Right.
drive to the next site. As they go, it falls off, right?
right.
Or you're plowing and you plow it, and so it's a very, like, we have the same problem.
This is years ago. Vermont had a problem with the invasives in the lakes long before we did. And we had a good friend that had a place on Lake Maury, and you know what they did? It was so bad there. They had a dog that we would go and visit in front of their house. The dog would be in the water waiting in these tall weeds that came to the height of the water. But anyways, the first thing they did to try to get rid of it was have a rake that went through the lake.
They made
And
it
it
worse.
broke it all up and it made it even worse. Because any fragment in starting another plant.
But maybe we answer number 11, that we know that we have non-native plants present in the general area, and we're not able to determine at this time if the site specific.
Are you putting all this down, Whitney? Cause I'll hopefully.
Yes.
Sure know.
Yes.
Winnie is the ultimate writer.
I know.
Hey, I
Great.
just want to let people know, I'm not going to be rude, but I'm down to 4% left on my iPad and it's going to bounce me out of here pretty soon. So I
Well,
might
we're so
disappear.
glad, so glad you could join us tonight.
Well,
I'm
thank
glad.
We just have one more item, Valley J could do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
You wanna finish up?
Yes.
Okay, Shirley, now you wanted, I did a presentation at the high school a couple weeks ago. I thought it went very well. The high school kids, they were very receptive. They were really tuned into maps. I put the big map up that we have, and they were really into that. And once they got them on their feet and looking at things, then they were really interested. But I sent you what I talked about,
Yes.
and it just went very well. And
That's
so
great.
I did it last year and I refined it this year. So as long as I'm a member, I'd like to just keep doing that. And this is the environmental science class at the high school.
Mhm.
And I am going to contact the chair from Canaan because it would be good to do it in,
Oh, that'd be great.
Get them
Partner
involved
with
too. So because it involves all the towns. So I'm gonna contact Canaan for next year, because I'm gonna do it once a year because it's the environmental science classes. There's 2 classes, so about 40 kids I'm reaching out to. Maybe I could grow it. I'll talk to Jen. She's the teacher, and maybe there's other classes that would like to hear it too. I'm planning on doing it's gonna be March now, not February. I'm gonna do that, 350 years of New Hampshire wildlife. I asked if they'd like to have me do that, so I'm gonna do that presentation. And at the same time, I can mention the grants for
Yes,
the easement.
send you the flyer.
Yes.
The teacher may already know it, but it doesn't hurt
Yeah.
to keep,
Yeah.
remind them.
Yeah.
So that, cause we'd like to get
Yeah.
the environmental classes.
Yep, so I'm planning on doing that, and then again, I'll just keep doing it every year, and I'll try to grow it within the high school, and maybe the junior high too.
Mhm.
I did that program last year with the kids and the little kids, and I'm not gonna continue that. It wasn't what I wanna project wasn't appropriate for those kids, you know? So it didn't go all that great, you know, I had fun, but it wasn't that great. But I'm gonna stay with high school and maybe work my way down to junior high, but and again, yeah, if you wanna post what I wrote, sections of it, you're more than welcome to. I think my focus was the Conservation Commission, who we are, what we do, and what some of the things we do, and then the importance of conserving land. I mean, I think that's one of the things that we need. Land and water is just one of the utmost important things that I'd like to recommend and teach kids. And even if the kids don't grasp it, maybe they go back to their parents and talk about it so that, you know, we keep that dialogue going.
Did you find out overall, do you think they're very interested in the environment and
Yeah.
that resources? And-
Yeah, I think so overall. They're kids, and you have to really kind of be patient when you're talking to kids, but you have to look for a nerve to hit. And once you hit the right nerve, then everything starts to come together. But, you know,
There might be kids from there that would like to volunteer
yeah,
on some of the things that we do too.
yeah, that's true. Anyway, I enjoy doing this, and I think keeping the dialogue going on what we are and what our goals are in terms of the town and conserving and embracing our environment is important. So that was it.
That's great.
Okay.
That's what makes me, I get in touch with the Honor Society students to volunteer in some various things, but that's the environmental class is a good one to get in touch with that teacher for things for conservation.
I used to maintain a list of all the classes that required and teacher contacts before COVID. I should update that. Because
Yeah.
it would be good to be able to just have at a meeting like
Good.
somebody.
Because it'd be nice to get those kids
'Cause there's
involved that like to.
Civics has a requirement too.
You guys have a comment from Jean?
Oh,
Hi.
hey, Dee.
Hi. A
Thank
couple
you.
things. I think it's great that you did this. And of course, we all, I'm sure, understand that starting when kids are younger to be thinking about this and nurture that love of nature and wildlife and the importance of conservation and all the things, you know. And I wonder for the younger children, where you said, you know, it kind of was hard and it wasn't really your thing to do. But I just wonder too, if there's maybe a teacher there who you could even just give some, you know, points to make, you know, like important things that you're trying to convey. And maybe a teacher or teachers could, you know, work that into their curriculum, you know, and you wouldn't have to do it and they would know how.
That's
For the
a good
younger
thought, Gene.
Kids, there's another program that, when I was in school, we did it for many, many years. And in fact, I went to that grade level because of my interest in the environment. But the way we did Trout in the Classroom, which is a program through the Fish and Game, and it really taught, they started out, we had the trout eggs. Well, first we went to the hatchery, but then we got trout eggs in January and they raised those and they actually, you know, we had a couple days a week that they showed their growth and they learned all along. And then but then they were learning as they went that those, when they hatched, we were gonna put them in the river there in Lebanon. But then before we did that, we learned a lot about the river and we did testing there. So they knew that river had to be of a certain quality for the trout to live. So it was a year-long thing and it was wonderful because, and then we had Congress at the end of the year that had all different related activities for both sides of town. But it was a wonderful program because they learned why they grew those trout and they learned why it was important for the water to be good for them to be. We learned which insects can live in poor water and which ones have to have the high quality water to be able to survive. So it was, and I mean, they took it all in their fourth grade.
Yeah. And I'm sure they remembered that their whole lives, right?
Oh, yeah, still
Yeah.
see them once in a while as, you know, college students and adults, and they still talk about it. They bring it up. They say, you probably don't recognize me, Mrs. Green, but you haven't changed that much. And but anyway, thank you. But, you know, we don't as adults. They remember us and they're true. They're right. It was very intuitive for them to realize that they don't look the same as they did as fourth graders.
Yeah.
And but it was fun.
I'm at 1%. I'm gonna say good night. Have a
Good night, Ed.
have a good month. I'll see you next month.
Get better.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, children learn by doing. And so that's a great example of that.
Do both.
At the elementary, I did the after
After
school.
They're kind of, I mean, I'm not picking on them, but like after school, they can be pretty wild.
Yeah.
It is nice to have a teacher that's really
Got the cream of
interested.
the crop.
Yeah.
No, actually, they have a really nice program through PTA where they do enrichment activities. So I think
Yeah,
is
that's
that
what I did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so it's a really nice offering, but you're little, you child, and so I
Yeah,
think
it's a
sometimes
rough
they
time
can
of
be.
day.
Well,
Yeah.
also- they're also-
Yeah. It's nice to have
They're too
the
young.
structure of the classroom too. And when I first started it, there were 3 fourth grades. And there wasn't one of the teachers, they'd gone to workshops, but
Mhm.
that's all they'd done is one workshop on the watershed.
Yeah.
So they couldn't explain the
Yeah.
watershed very
The
well.
Watershed Warriors, I tried doing that with those kids and it was just too much. It was just a little too much.
Well, you need a lot of people for each activity
I
with
know,
that.
I
That's
stretched it out.
something that I
yeah,
did with
Over
graduation.
four classes, I stretched it out, but, yeah. I mean, I think it sunk into some of the kids, but some of the kids, it was just a game. But yeah,
That's okay too.
but Jean's idea was good. I think there's some points that could be shared with the teachers and see if they want to take them, you know?
Yeah.
That's,
Let 'em
It's
run
very
with it.
that you're
Yeah.
doing that. It's wonderful.
well, it's something I like to do, so that's
Great.
good.
Because it's really nice to connect with them and have them see the connection.
The other thing is they do 4 wins still,
Oh, yeah, I was in
and they
that.
are sometimes looking for volunteers. So maybe instead of, maybe one of the things we could do if people are interested is you could volunteer for 4 wins. I don't teach small children.
I did 4 wins
feed
for
them.
many years
I'm
too.
very good at feeding them food, not very good at teaching.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
It's an
not
art.
easy.
It really
It's an
is.
art.
I'm like, you're destined for heaven. What do you need for supplies?
It's hard.
I love that age,
Yeah.
but anyways, I did 4 wins for many years as a parent too, honestly.
Yeah.
Have they said anything about needing volunteers? I'm picking on you, just your.
Nothing that I've seen specifically, but it's definitely done, like earlier in the year, one of Arlo's
In 4,
classes had it, so.
in 4 wins, we did it in the daytime within the teachers.
Yeah, that's why I was
Yeah.
thinking, because sometimes they're looking for a daytime volunteer. There is a process though,
But
for
just-
volunteer, you have
There's
to.
no limit to the things we can do.
Yep.
All different ages, and that's exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, Shirley, next month I'm gonna be out of town, actually. Okay, I'm on, it's a family gathering for a wedding and stuff, so I won't be available for March, okay?
Thank you, for letting us know.
Will we be meeting here or at Whitney Hall?
I think we'll still be
Here.
here. I think
It's not gonna be
Yes.
available yet?
there's still a lot to do.
I don't know, I just read it, thought it was,
But when
I saw the
we
library
all
moving in and
They'll
stuff.
be,
So I thought, maybe the meeting room was ready.
well, actually, well, I don't know if they are yet, the room, in the town office is.
So,
Be-
yeah,
not.
they're still kind of mid-moving, so the town offices are running, but we still have some boxes and things that they're working out. If you've ever moved into a new building, the heat is always the question, right? Because one room's like 100,000 degrees and one is Antarctica. So they're working those little kinks out, but I know the library in particular, the library corner room is particularly gorgeous.
Oh,
We
yeah,
have some really nice meeting spaces, public meeting space downstairs. So we might be able to meet into and unless we had a more interesting topic, meet in one of the smaller spaces that's available right now.
There's a lot, now, and
Yeah, because the one in the
Screen.
library, the screen is already in place, I think, isn't it? Or is that the town? Maybe it's the downstairs tower. The projection screen is already in one, but I don't know if it's ready to hook up.
There's
I don't know, it's up there, I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
They're kind of in the middle. I
Love.
think, but-
Yeah, some of those more nuanced, and then upstairs, Whitney Hall, because so the history is Whitney Hall is technically only the very upstairs.
Mhm.
But I just call it the whole building. I'm like, I think it'd be easier, but so that is not ready because they're finishing some final contracting things. They tried to get everyone moving into their spaces that was an active workspace. And then there's still some work to be done around how we project and what we're gonna be buying for equipment, because if you're doing a permanent meeting space, this is nice, but you can get things that have better audio with less lag. And so they're working on that. The other piece that we have not done yet is the furniture there. So we're not gonna take these and put them up there. I mean, we could, but probably getting it appropriately outfitted. So we're ways off from the big meeting room, but I think we could fit our meetings into one of the nice small ones.
Yeah, either in our
Without the
library
blower.
one or the one
That
downstairs.
blower is the.
Although, you know, like tonight we had quite a few visitors
And
and quite a few of the public, and there wouldn't be room in the
Yeah.
corner one downstairs actually. For
Yeah.
If you had the public was invited, if there was we'd have to, depending on our meeting, like most times we don't have public, but if it's something that we feel we'd be getting public. we can move
The downstairs, I think the one on the ground floor level where the town offices are, there's this, meeting room that's in the rear. I think that might be an appropriate size for this. It would have easily helped us.
You mentioned, you know, being called Whitney Hall because of it was George Whitney that gave money because he wanted a hall too.
Mhm.
But the one that really is responsible for the building being there is Henry Cummings.
Right.
And he wanted it to be the library memorial building.
Mhm.
And that's actually in the granite in the front, so that's good. And that's what we're gonna call that room because he's the one that put up $1,000 to have that and brought it before the town.
Yeah.
And got approval to build it. And he was a Shaker, very interesting person. Came there when he was 8 to 10 years old. I'll make it quick so you don't know. But he came to the Shakers when he was 8 to 10 years old and he left at 40 to get married. Imagine? It's pretty surprising, isn't it?
Well, also, I think they
And he
were
was a
very
very
industrious.
high ranked Shaker
Yeah.
too.
But you got enough
Very
of that.
intelligent. He actually saved him.
You got enough of their
In
shaking.
those days, I mean, $15,000 was a lot of money and someone lost that amount for the Shakers. And he managed to get it back, but he went away for 4 years when he got married to the Midwest. And then he came back and was very prominent in the town and that's how he came about, having a library.
So I
Building,
will.
the whole building.
As soon as we have a date for the kind of open house and grand opening. I know the library trustees are working on it too, and they're gonna coordinate with Ed. I'll make sure we give an update during this meeting so that you guys have an opportunity to go. But if you have a chance to just stop in and, take a quick peek,
It's impressive.
It's not gonna be Boston Public Library, right? That's not where we're gonna pay taxes for around here, but it's nice. It's very nice. It's very appropriate for what we have.
Right.
It's bright.
Nice.
Isn't it? It's so bright.
And I looked
Have
at
that
that.
wall open on the other side where, it was just never, sorry.
Yeah.
Now everything is just bright and
It's nice.
nice.
So I would like to stick garden club on the agenda for another meeting, if we could, just the topic and talk about looking to form it, and how we do it, because I think there's a great opportunity, right? You're looking at these beautiful new conference rooms. You could be looking at scrubby brush and box elders, which are a junky maple. Or you could be looking at a native plant that helps, put water back down into the soil and attracts pollinators. And so I just think there's some opportunity there as a conservation commission to see if we can engage people to, I kind of envision, like Dolores does, I'll pick on Dolores because she does a fabulous job. There's it's called the Mother's Garden. If you're across from 56 Main in the rail trail parking, there's a little garden right next to what's going to be the brewery. And that is the Mother's Garden, and Dolores does it. I would love to be able to say, hey, like someone like Dolores, like give her some recognition for it. But we also, as a larger town, don't have any form of organization around getting a lot of the gardens and public spaces cleaned up. So it's like the generosity and goodness of people. So maybe we could work to
Do something, yeah.
yeah, without being really, like stodgy and trying to push, but maybe we could honor their contribution with like a small, you see in some places they have like this is maintained by so-and-so. It gives them, there's the pride in getting it
That's a great
done.
idea, yeah.
And it's a nice acknowledgement without costing money.
Even some little signage too, that saying what plants are, 'cause that's an education piece.
Yeah.
You go to some parks and stuff and you see, I like that when you walk in, cause I don't know a lot about plants, but I'm walking along and I see little signs that say, this is this. Just little identification.
There's an opportunity
It
to
is.
talk to Lakeside Park, I think. maybe.
Well, the museum would like to work with us too on a pollinating garden. There's several things that I'd like to have people come and talk about
Yeah.
in the next few months. but we've had long meetings, so I didn't add anything to these meetings.
I was just wondering, that's why I asked if we could just add it to a future.
Okay.
I'd
What
make a
about
motion.
What was that?
I'm like, can I make a motion?
Oh, yes.
Oh, we missed.
Yeah, we didn't go over our correspondence, yeah.
Oh, yeah. When I looked at the like cut sheets, that nothing jumped out at me.
No,
No,
there was something
Well,
interesting.
the guy's clearing the whole lot. But I say,
that's all state. That the one that's on Hackett Road, that's all state land.
I
No, I just have
I
some.
guess I'm unclear what we can even,
Nothing.
we don't like it.
It's kind of advisory, so you know what's going on. But the other thing that's nice is when someone's talking to you as conservation. There was a great conversation last year when the state did that clear cut. And then I think in the conversations, we learned about like rebrushing and why you rebrush an area.
I have had a couple of, come to me, they're a little concerned
Mhm.
about the amount they're cutting. They felt it was more than they had planned to cut. And they're, wondering with this one, because Fish and Game is even more. And this person, people were saying, hopefully they're not doing a lot of that cutting to raise funds. Cause you do raise a lot of funds from one to two.
I mean, if that's
So-
the concern and they're outside their cut, they need to,
Yeah,
that needs to
so
be
I think
addressed by
that's
the
something we
state.
needed, cause this person felt they were outside of it the last time and they were concerned about this time. So that was something I wanted to mention. On the DES things, Liberty, did a, permit by notification for some, let's see, for the maintenance on their lines or vegetation, and they were approved. There was an interesting thing, last month I was talking about how the Lakeside Park, what they're doing is with the Perch Beach is it's a good idea. Well, it turns out, and I was saying how well DES does it, looking over these permits. Well, this is one thing we wouldn't have been aware of, but they actually changed their dock, which they had the plan for it, so, which they shouldn't have. So DES has sent them, they're asking for more information. And they also didn't have anything in their plan for stormwater runoff management. So they're asking them to do that.
That's good.
And it's really great that DES is so conscientious in checking over these permits and past ones because so, even though they're, the thing they're doing, the outcome will be good, but they need to take those steps and not change. They're very particular on docks.
Mhm.
And also stormwater runoff, which is really important to our lakes. Good. So I think, does anyone else have any business to bring up?
I don't really wanna get going, but I think you sent it to us, the thing on salt. Salt use and stuff.
Oh, yes.
I mean, I don't know, I mean, ever since I've moved here, I'm so surprised at how much salt they use by Crystal Lake. I think it's ridiculous.
Well,
So I don't.
We
know.
actually had them come in, and talk. They've really changed how they do it, but maybe we should invite Jeremy again.
we did, yeah, we could. We did do testing on.
No, I know
Yeah.
it, but
And, we were
it's to kind of catch it
surprised
before it
with,
becomes a problem, not wait until it does.
We were surprised that, we expected. there
Sure, right.
There'd be more, but it was lower, much lower than we had expected.
Yeah, Jeremy, I don't know what, I mean,
But
you
it
could
is
watch
good.
it on YouTube, because he did come and see us before you were on the board. And explain some of the techniques they use to lower the amount of salt, because they do have an overspray, they
We
could
could
do
have-
something.
Yeah, that was kind of like what Hammerwood does.
Yeah, well, so Jeremy came, we
Right.
borrowed Jeremy off.
But a lot of lakes do have low salt areas.
Yeah,
That's what I mean, I'm just
Yeah.
surprised that all the.
And I'm
Right on the
surprised.
Sculpin.
you know,
well, so
the
4A
long
and 4
ass
we
Sculpin.
can't touch.
Oh, that's right, it's a state
Yeah.
road.
Yeah,
Crystal
but-
Lake Road,
But, I mean, shouldn't the state be?
But the
doing
state
that too?
yeah,
Yeah.
I think so, I don't know.
Oh, and I did want to quickly say, I hope some of you signed up for the webinars from Taking Action for Wildlife.
Yeah, I'm looking at them. I haven't
Sweet.
decided yet. There's a couple, they're in February, March. I'm looking
Yeah.
at a couple, yeah.
There's
First
four
one
of
was
them.
last night.
Yeah.
I
wasn't
missed it, but
interested.
they
It was good.
record, so sign up for it.
Yeah.
And you can watch it after, that's because
Yeah.
I was busy clearing ice
I
off
got
my drive.
the recording today, and I can send that on too. It was very good. It was
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, I signed up for all of them with that in mind. Then you can watch the webinar in case you can't make it at that particular time.
Sometimes something comes up and.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
So I encourage you to do that because we can apply for funding on, if we have a project we want to do. But people who watch conservation commissions who watch the webinar
Yeah, give preference.
get preference on that. So it's good that we sign up in case we want to get assistance with something.
No, I'm glad I did.
So I guess, do I hear a motion to?
So moved.
I'll second.
I haven't eaten dinner yet.
All in favor, aye?
I haven't either, Kate.
Bye.
Aye.
Good to see you all.
Good night.
I mean,
See
Bye,
you.
Jean.
Bye. Good job, wrangling that discussion, Shirley. You did a good job.
No.
You let it, you
I
let it
like-
run and then you wrangled it. Yeah.
I was afraid that,
That's a knack.
a minute there.
No, they listened to you when you spoke up. That was good. All right.
Uh,
Good night, everybody.